Hi everyone, this is Miu from Susan's family. Today I will show you the crochet technique for the Camellia French top from Secret Garden series. The entire piece is divided into the back piece, the left and right front pieces, the side panels, the sleeves, and the hem. We will finish edging the collar, front and back dividing pieces, waistband, ties, cuffs, and lace trim sections. First, complete the knitting portion with straight needles. Then finish the crochet portions. Finally, sew and assemble all parts together. You can learn the techniques first before starting to make it. You can also follow your own preferred order for making it. Pay attention, the yarn used in the finished knitting section may not be easy to undo. Everyone can practice the technique with yarn from home. Then use the original yarn for the final project, since everyone's tension is different. The size of the fabric pieces will vary as well. Before starting the project, you need to make a gauge swatch with knitting needles. Measure your tension. The specific chart and dimensions for the gauge swatch are provided. Please refer to the corresponding chart. If there's a significant difference, you can change the needle size or adjust your tension. Now let's learn how to make the gauge swatch. Please watch the demonstration. Since everyone has different tension in their hands, the size of the fabric piece will vary. To ensure the final dimensions are roughly consistent, before starting the official project, you can use the matching yarn. Use knitting needles to create a gauge swatch. Measure the dimensions of the swatch. In the corresponding product chart, there will be a gauge swatch diagram or matching dimensions. If the size differs significantly, you can change the needle size or adjust your tension. Let's take a look at the swatch chart. A vertical line in the chart represents a knit stitch, to make the image look less dense. The blank squares in the chart also represent knit stitches. From the right side, it's all knit stitch texture. This is the stocking stitch pattern. There's one thing to pay attention to. The swatch is worked back and forth. The chart reflects the texture of the right side of the fabric. On the wrong side, you need to work the opposite stitches. Below, please watch as I demonstrate the specific technique. To make it easier for everyone to watch clearly, I'll demonstrate the method using a thick yarn. If the product is made with 2 strands of yarn, the method is the same. Just treat the 2 strands of yarn as one and work with them together. For convenience when dealing with the gauge sample later, it's recommended to take the yarn from the outside of the skein. First, cast on. Use the method of cable cast on. Make a slip knot with the yarn. Pick up the straight needle with your left hand. Insert it into the loop. Slightly tighten. This is the first stitch. This stitch is worked as a knit stitch. Hold your right hand in a pencil grip. Pick up the other straight needle with it. Then wrap the yarn tail once around your right pinky. Gently pinch the yarn with your ring finger and middle finger. Place the yarn between your index finger and middle finger. This is the basic posture for holding the needles. If you're using circular needles, use the same method to place the loop onto one end of the knitting needle. Then position it on the left side. Hold the other end of the knitting needle with your right hand and wrap the yarn accordingly. I will continue knitting with straight needles here. The method is identical for circular needles. Next, insert the right needle from top to bottom into the loop on the left needle. Use your right index finger to carry the yarn. Yarn over. Pick up the stitch. Place it onto the left needle. Don't pull the yarn too tight, otherwise, it will be hard to pick up the stitches later. This is the second stitch. Continue casting on. Insert the right needle from top to bottom, between these two loops. Yarn over. Pick up the stitch. Place it onto the left needle. This is the third stitch. Mind that the yarn shouldn't be pulled too tight. It's okay if it's slightly loose. Continue casting on. Insert the right needle between these two stitches. Insert downwards from top to bottom. Yarn over. Pick up the stitch. Place it onto the left needle. This is the fourth stitch. The insertion position each time is to knit between two loops. For the exact number of beginning chains, please refer to the chart. The stitch count in my sample swatch is random. I will continue casting on a few more stitches. After completing the required number of stitches, everyone take a look. This is what the effect looks like after finishing the cast on. Here, we are only demonstrating the method. There are fewer stitches. Now let's start crocheting the first row. This row should be watched from right to left in the chart. The chart shows all vertical symbols, meaning we knit all stitches as knit stitches. Insert the right needle from top to bottom into the first loop on the left needle. Pay attention here, insert it into the loop, not between two loops. Yarn over. Pick out. At the same time, release the loop on the left needle. That's the first stitch. Now let's move on to the second stitch. Insert the right needle from top to bottom into the loop on the left needle. Yarn over. Pick out. Release the loop on the left needle. The second knit stitch is now complete. Continue with the third stitch. Insert downwards into the loop. Yarn over. Pick out. Release the loop. The third stitch is now complete. Work into each stitch with knit stitches for the entire row. Finish all the loops on the left needle. This indicates the completion of the entire row. If the last stitch loop is too loose, you can slightly tighten the yarn tail. This completes the first row. You can use the starting tail to tell the right side from the wrong side. The side where the starting tail is on the left is the right side of the piece. This is the front of the fabric. The opposite side is the wrong side of the piece. Now proceed to work the second row. Work this row on the wrong side. Flip the piece over. Place it in your left hand. Read this row of the chart from left to right. It's the same symbol for a knit stitch. Since you're working on the wrong side, you need to work the opposite stitch. Work all stitches as purl stitches. Position the right needle below the yarn. Move upwards. And insert the right needle into the first loop on the left needle. Yarn over. Pick up the loop. Release the loop on the left needle. The purl stitch is now complete. Continue moving upwards, and insert the right needle into the first loop on the left needle again. Yarn over. Pick up the loop. Release the loop. The second purl stitch is now complete. Repeat this process. Finish the remaining stitches. Complete the last stitch. The second row is now finished. Continue with the third row. This row is worked on the right side. Flip the fabric piece over. Work all stitches as knit stitches. Complete this entire row. Here, you can follow the pattern chart for your stitching. You can also refer to the texture for your stitching. Below the loop, you can see the shape of the braid. This is the texture of the knit stitch. When you encounter the knit texture, match it with a knit stitch. Finish the last stitch. The third row is now complete. Next, work on the fourth row. Flip the fabric piece over. Crochet the stitches opposite to what's shown in the chart. Work all stitches as purl stitches. You can also refer to the texture for your stitching. There is a horizontal line below the loop. When the horizontal line is above the current loop, it indicates the purl stitch texture. When you encounter the purl texture, work a purl stitch. After finishing the last stitch, the fourth row is complete. Here, I'll teach you a way to count rows. Count from the right side of the fabric. You can see that on the right side of the fabric, there are these vertical columns of stitches. Count how many stitches there are in one column. The starting chain does not count as a row. In other words, the braid at the very bottom is not included. Start counting from the first braid above it. One, two, three. There are a total of 3 braids. The loops on the needle count as one row. Add the loops on the needle. And you can see that a total of 4 rows have been completed here. This is the method for counting rows. The knitting method for the back is identical. On the right side, knit all stitches. On the wrong side, purl all stitches. Continue knitting until you reach the corresponding row number on the chart. Everyone can finish this part on their own. After reaching the corresponding row number, lay the fabric piece flat. Take out a ruler or gauge swatch. Measure the fabric piece. Here, I'll demonstrate the measuring method using a sample swatch. When measuring, pay attention not to stretch the fabric piece. Just lay it flat. Start by measuring horizontally. Note that you should exclude the first and last 5 stitches. Begin from the 6th chain on one side. Measure all the way to the corresponding 6th chain on the other side. That is, the 6th braid counting inward from the edge. Then measure vertically. Start below the straight needle. Locate the 6th row of braids from the bottom. Down to the 6th row of braids from the bottom. This is the method for measuring with a ruler. The area being measured is approximately 10 times 10 centimeters. If using a gauge ruler to measure, place it in the centered position on the fabric piece. Then count the number of braids horizontally, which corresponds to the stitch count. Count the number of braids vertically, which corresponds to the row count. If there's a significant difference between the data or dimensions marked on the chart and your measurement to achieve the sample size, you can change the needle size while knitting, or adjust your tension. After measuring, remove the straight needle and take apart the fabric piece. Then wind the yarn tail back onto the skein. For yarn that isn't easy to take apart, you can pick up the new yarn and start crocheting again. You can all complete it on your own. This is the method for knitting a gauge swatch. Start with the back piece. Use the right hand long tail cast on method. Knit stocking stitch back and forth. Increase stitches on both sides to create the curve. Leave space for the neck opening in the middle. Use short rows on the shoulders to form the sloping shoulder shape. Let's take a look at the chart next. The sample here is only for explanation. The final chart should match the actual project you have. One square on the chart represents one stitch, which corresponds to one loop when knitting. Corresponds to one loop when knitting. The blank squares here indicate knit stitches. When counting the number of stitches per row, just count the number of squares, then match it with the number of loops on your needle. The row count for short rows is calculated separately. Arrows indicate the direction of knitting. For the right side, the chart is read from right to left. For the wrong side, the chart is read from left to right. Pay attention when working on the wrong side. You need to use the opposite stitch pattern as shown in the chart. All stitch patterns used here will be clearly marked. Please watch me demonstrate the specific knitting method. Start with a foundation chain. Take the corresponding yarn. The color for the swatch is random. For specific yarn, color schemes and hook sizes can be found in the reference materials. Please refer to the detail page of our product and the paper instructions for more information. The exact casting on method will be demonstrated. Start with a long tail cast on. Before casting on, make sure to leave a tail of sufficient length. It's usually about 3 times the length of the fabric piece. Refer to the chart for the exact length. Make a slip knot with the yarn tail. Pick up a straight needle with your left hand, or one end of a circular needle. Insert it into the loop. Slightly tighten. This is the first stitch. Hold the 2 strands of yarn with your right hand. Place your thumb and index finger between these 2 strands. Pay attention. The strand connected to the yarn ball should be placed over your index finger. The long tail end goes over your thumb. Straighten the yarn. Insert the needle upwards through the loop on your thumb. Then pick up the yarn on your index finger from behind to front. Pass the yarn through the loop on your thumb. Release the loop from your thumb. Slightly tighten. This is the second stitch. Now start the third stitch. Straighten the yarn again. Insert the needle upwards through the loop on your thumb. Then pick up the yarn on your index finger from back to front. Draw the yarn through the loop on your thumb. Release the yarn from your thumb. Slightly tighten. The third stitch is now complete. Continue with the fourth stitch. First, insert the needle into the loop hanging on your thumb. Then pick up the yarn resting on your index finger and draw it through the loop on your thumb. Release the yarn from your thumb. Slightly tighten. The fourth stitch is now complete. Note: the yarn connecting to the skein should always rest on your index finger. The reserved yarn stays on your thumb. Don't mix them up. Following this method, continue casting on. Stop when you've cast on the required number of stitches. This is the long tail cast on method. After casting on, start working row 1. Here, I'll demonstrate with a swatch. Read the chart from right to left. All stitches correspond to knit stitches. Once finished, the first row is complete. We will consider this as the front side of the entire piece. That means the side where the yarn tail is on the right-hand side is the front. Continue with row 2. Read the chart from left to right. Turn the piece over. Transfer it to your left hand. This row has knit stitch symbols. On the wrong side, you need to work the opposite stitch as shown in the chart. Here, work all stitches as purl stitches. Mindful, the needle should be placed below the yarn. This creates a tile-like texture. Continue working across the row. Once completed, the second row is done. For rows 4 to 6 in the back, work back and forth in stocking stitches you did for rows 1 to 2. Everyone, Complete these rows, then move on to row 7. Start with 1 knit stitch. Follow with 1 increase stitch on the right. Pick up the strand on the right side of the braid first. Work 1 knit stitch. Pay attention, insert the hook from front to back. This is the added stitch. Then continue by inserting through the loop of this stitch. Work 1 knit stitch. The right increase is now complete. Continue with knit stitches. Keep knitting until you reach the end, leaving 2 stitches. When you reach the corresponding position, work 1 left increase stitch. First, pick up this loop and work 1 knit stitch. Then find the second braid below this loop. Insert the left needle from left to right to pick up a strand on the left side of the braid. Then work 1 knit stitch. This stitch on the left is the added stitch. That's how you complete the left increase. Finally, work 1 knit stitch. Row 7 is now complete. For the following rows, continue to refer to the chart and work back and forth. Pay attention to increasing stitches at the second stitch of the beginning and ending in corresponding rows. Please refer to the previous demonstration for reference. After completing the rows before the neckline, below, I'll use this swatch to teach everyone how to count the rows. On the right side of the fabric, there are columns of chains like this. The chain at the very bottom is formed by the starting chain. Start counting from the second chain. 1 chain represents 1 row. The loops on the knitting needle also count as 1 row. This swatch has a total of 7 rows. That's how you count the rows. After finishing the row before the neckline. Next, we need to divide the work, and knit the left and right shoulders separately. The left and right here refer to the sides when the garment is being worn. Starting with the previous yarn, knit the right shoulder back and forth. Decrease stitches on the side of the neckline. First, increase stitches at the edge according to the chart. Use short rows at the end to form the sloping shoulder. Finally, on the wrong side, knit purl stitches while binding off. Then attach the yarn on the right side of the neckline. Bind off at the neck opening. Then knit the left shoulder back and forth. Similarly, decrease stitches on the neckline side. First, increase stitches at the edge, then proceed with short row knitting. Finally, bind off with purl stitches in the same way, for the specific short row knitting. The neckline decrease and shoulder binding methods. Please refer to the demonstration in the video below. You can first learn the techniques, then follow the chart for knitting. Let's learn a more commonly used neckline decrease method. That is, use purl stitches to decrease. This creates the desired curve. Suppose this is the front piece neckline. Therefore, this side is the left shoulder, and this side is the right shoulder. Sometimes, the shoulders require short rows. There are no short rows here, we're only explaining the neckline decrease. Let's start with the left shoulder. This chart has fewer stitches. The focus is on explaining the method. First, crochet the first row of the neckline. That is, start with 13 knit stitches. If there are more stitches, you can use stitch markers to separate them before continuing. I've already finished the first row. The remaining loops are paused for now. Next, work the second row. The second row is worked on the wrong side. You'll notice that this row starts with binding off 3 stitches in a row. If there are more stitches to bind off, you can use stitch markers to separate them first. To start binding off, begin with 1 slip stitch. Then make 1 purl stitch. And pass the first stitch over the second one. This binds off 1 stitch. Continue with another purl stitch. And bind off another stitch. Unless otherwise specified, on the wrong side, you'll be working purl stitches while binding off. There is 1 stitch remaining to the right of the marker, which is the 3rd stitch loop. We need to bind this stitch off. Therefore, work 1 more stitch and bind it off. The next stitch is the one adjacent to the last bind off symbol. Here, we simply work a purl stitch. Note: since stitch techniques may vary depending on the pattern, you should refer to the chart for this stitch. After finishing, bind off the 3rd stitch. This way, all 3 stitches from the chart are bound off. Continue following the chart for stitching. Pay attention. Next you should start stitching from the 2nd stitch beside the bind off symbol. Before stitching, slightly tighten the loop to prevent any noticeable holes. There are no special patterns here, so we will work all stitches as purl stitches. Now, that's it for row 2. Now move on to row 3. Refer to the chart and work all stitches as knit stitches. I've already finished it, and we'll continue with row 4. Here, just bind off 2 stitches at the beginning. The method is identical to row 1. Start with 1 slip stitch. Then work 1 purl stitch. Bind off 1 stitch. And continue with 1 purl stitch. Bind off 1 more stitch. Slightly tighten the loop. Then work all remaining stitches as purl stitches, and finish row 5 as well. Now, I've completed row 5. Let's move on to row 6. For this row, just bind off 1 stitch at the beginning. The method is identical to binding off the first stitch of row 1. After it's done, work all stitches as purl stitches. For the remaining rows, 7 and 9, work all stitches as knit stitches. Row 8 is the same as row 6. Bind off one stitch at the beginning. Row 10 doesn't require binding off any stitches, just work all stitches as purl stitches normally. Now, I've already finished these 10 rows. In the end, there should be 6 stitches left. Next, we'll move on to the right shoulder. Before continuing, we need to bind off 9 stitches in the middle first. You can use a stitch marker to separate them. Pick up the new yarn and make a slip knot. Slightly tighten the small loop. Start with 2 knit stitches. Then bind off 1 stitch. Knit 1 stitch. Bind off 1 stitch. When there are no special instructions, on the right side, you'll bind off while knitting the stitches. Continue to bind off the remaining stitches. Also, mind that when binding off the last loop, the stitch you knit is the first stitch to the left of the bind off symbol. Refer to the chart and crochet the corresponding stitch pattern. Here, we continue with knit stitches and bind off as we go. After completing, start from the second stitch and finish this row. Then, on the wrong side, purl all stitches for row 2. Now I've finished row 2. Continue with row 3. At the beginning, bind off 3 stitches in a row. You can start with 1 slip stitch and 1 knit stitch. Bind off 1 stitch. Continue knitting and binding off stitches. Now, the 3 stitches have been bound off. Continue to finish row 3 and complete row 4. Now I've finished row 4. At the beginning of row 5, bind off 2 stitches. The method for binding off is the same as the first 2 stitches of row 3. for rows 7 and 9 later on. You also bind off one stitch at the beginning. The method for binding off is the same as the first stitch of row 3. I will continue to finish the remaining part of the right shoulder. Now I've finished knitting the right shoulder. There should be 6 stitches left here. This way, the method for decreasing stitches at the neckline is now complete. For the short rows with stitches left on the right side, you can see that here you need to work 6 short rows. For row 1, work it on the wrong side. Leave 5 stitches at the end unworked. I have already finished this part. For row 2, work it on the right side. First, knit a bar stitch like this on the right needle. Then work 1 slip stitch. Next, knit 1 by 1 accordingly. Finish this row. After completing it, continue with row 3. At the end of this row, in addition to the first 5 stitches, leave another 4 stitches unworked. Pay attention. The bar stitch is not included. After finishing, continue with row 4. The method is identical to row 2. First, make a bar stitch like this. Then work 1 slip stitch. Then follow the chart to finish the rest of the row as usual. For row 5, leave another 4 stitches at the end. Similarly, the bar stitch does not count. The technique for row 6 is also the same as row 2. I will continue and finish these 2 rows. Now, I have completed the short rows. Finally, you need to work one more row. This is to eliminate the row discrepancy. We call it eliminating the row for short. Start by working into each stitch evenly in purl. Keep going until you reach the stitch just before the bar stitch. After completing that, swap the bar stitch with the stitch on the left side. Then work them together as one purl stitch. Each time you reach a bar stitch position later on, you should first swap the yarn over stitch with the stitch on the left side. Then combine, and work as one purl stitch. Continue to finish the rest of the row. Now, the row discrepancy has been eliminated. You can take a look. This is what the right side effect looks like. Work the purl stitches while binding off at the same time, usually after completing the stockinette stitch. You can use this method on the wrong side. When binding off in this situation, start with 2 purl stitches. Then pick up the first stitch with the left needle. Place it over the second stitch. And slip it off. That's how you bind off one stitch. Continue with another purl stitch. Place the first stitch over the second stitch again. And that's how you bind off another stitch. We'll continue binding them off in this way. Each time, use a purl stitch to bind off. When there is only one loop left, refer to the ending of the first case. Secure and hide the yarn tail. That concludes how to purl while binding off. For short rows on the left side, you can see that 6 rows need to be worked here. On the first row, work on the right side, leaving the last 5 stitches unworked at the end. I've already completed it. On the second row, work on the wrong side. Start by making a wrap stitch like this on the right needle. Don't make the wrap too loose. Then work one slip stitch. Next, purl each stitch in sequence. Finish this row. After completing it, continue with the third row. At the end of this row, leave out the first 5 stitches. You also need to leave 4 more stitches unworked. Pay attention, the wrapped stitch does not count. After completing it, continue with the fourth row. The method is identical to the second row. Start by wrapping one stitch like this. Then work one slip stitch. Next, follow the chart to complete the rest of the row as usual. For the fifth row, you need to leave 4 stitches at the ending as well. Similarly, the wrapped stitch doesn't count. The technique for the sixth row is also the same as the second row. I will continue and finish these 2 rows. Now, I have completed the short rows. One more row needs to be worked to eliminate the row difference. In short, eliminate the row difference. Start by knitting each stitch one by one. Keep going until you reach the stitch before the wrap stitch. After completing that, combine the wrapped stitch with the next stitch on the left side, and knit them together as one knit stitch. Each time you reach a wrapped stitch position, knit the wrapped stitch together with the corresponding stitch on the left side. Continue to finish the rest of the row. Now, the row difference elimination is completed. You can take a look. This is what the right side effect looks like. Sometimes, to make the row counts match on both sides, you need to knit one more row. Just follow the pattern chart specifically. Up to this point, the explanation for the back piece is complete. Next, let's learn about the left and right front pieces. They are also divided into the body and bust sections. I'll first explain the left front piece. The body knitting is similar to the starting position of the back piece. Work even on the button band side. Increase stitches along the edge. After completing, knit the bust section. Decrease stitches on the neckline side. Continue increasing stitches along the edge. End with short rows to form the shoulder slope. Finally, fasten off on the wrong side as before. Refer to the previous demonstration and follow the chart to complete it. Once done, move on to the right front piece. Work even on the body at the button band side. Increase stitches along the edge. Decrease stitches at the bust section near the neckline. Continue increasing stitches along the edge. End with short rows to form the shoulder slope. Finally, fasten off on the wrong side as before. Refer to the previous demonstration. Follow the chart to complete it. After both the front and back pieces are fully knitted, sew the shoulders together. Here, use the seamless stitch-to-stitch sewing method for sewing. For more details, please refer to the video demonstration below. All stitches are in the bound-off state. This is a commonly used seamless sewing method. You can leave a long tail at the end of one fabric piece. Thread the tail through the sewing needle. Position it at the back side. Pull out the needle from the edge of the piece closest to you without a tail. That is, pull the needle out from the middle of this stitch on the edge. Then, each time, pick up from the front fabric piece. Pick up the reversed braid, pick up the stitch. Pick up the reversed braid from the back piece. Pick up the inverted stitch. After sewing a few stitches, you can take a look. The sewing position forms a braid-like texture. If you tighten it, it becomes seamless stitching. The seam will be invisible. You can decide whether to tighten based on your preference. I'll continue and finish sewing this part. That's how you sew it properly. This concludes the explanation of the left and right front pieces up to this point. Next, we'll learn about the side panels. They are divided into side panel 1 and side panel 2. There are 2 identical side panels for each section. Both use the long tail cast-on method with the right hand. Work back and forth in stocking stitch. Work evenly along one edge. Decrease on the middle side at corresponding row numbers. Start by knitting the side panels for the front piece. Here, for side panel 1, we will use a new stitch technique. Sew, slip 1 knitwise, pass the slipped stitch over. Please refer to the demonstration for detailed instructions. Knit stitch with sew, short for knit stitch with sew, right upper cluster. When knitting, start by slipping 1 stitch as if to knit. Slip it off without knitting. Then knit 1 stitch. And finally lift the unknitted stitch with the left needle. Cover the left stitch and slip it off. The right upper cluster is now complete. You can see that the right loop is above the left loop. After completing the last row of side panel 1, bind off by knitting the stitches together on the right side. Since there are fewer stitches here, the method remains the same. Please refer to the demonstration. Bind off while knitting the stitches together. After finishing the stockinette stitch, you can use this method on the right side. In this situation, when binding off, start by knitting 2 stitches. Then pick up the previous stitch with the left needle. Cover it over the next stitch. This way, you've bound off 1 stitch. Continue by knitting 1 more stitch. Then pick up the previous stitch with the left needle again. Cover it over the next stitch. And that's another stitch bound off. I'll continue binding them off. Each time, you bind off by knitting a stitch. Now there is 1 loop left. Enlarge the loop. Then leave a tail and fasten off the yarn. The length of the yarn tail depends on the specific situation of the fabric. Usually, reserving about 10 centimeters is sufficient. Pass the yarn tail through the loop. Pull tight. This is the method for binding off while knitting the stitches. No matter which binding off method you use, the technique for securing the yarn tail at the end can refer to the demonstration here. And after everything is completely finished, if you haven't specifically reserved a long tail for sewing, these short tails can be woven in on the wrong side, following the fabric's texture. Tuck them in neatly. Try not to affect the right side texture. When weaving in the ends, you can completely weave in the entire yarn tail. After completing side 1, continue with side 2. Decrease at the left edge. Bind off at the end with a decrease. The method is the same as the ending for side 1. The new stitch technique used here is K2 tog. For the specific stitching method, please refer to the demonstration. First, learn the K2 tog. It's abbreviated as left slanting knit decrease. When crocheting, insert the right needle from left to right, and pass through both of these two loops at the same time. Then work one knit stitch. That completes the left slanting knit decrease. You can see that the left loop is above the right loop. After completing all the side panels of the front piece, press the completed fabric piece flat with an iron. Match the decreased edge of the side piece with the edges of the front and back pieces. They should roughly correspond to each other. If there's a significant difference, refer to the dimensions on the structure diagram. Adjust your crochet tension and rework the piece that doesn't match in size. The two side pieces of the back piece are worked in the same way as the two side pieces of the front piece. Just complete them following the instructions. After all side pieces of the front and back pieces are finished, position them correctly. Sew together the areas where the shoulders meet. Use the same method as for sewing the shoulders of the front and back pieces. There are fewer stitches here, so you can use a reserved yarn tail to sew it together. Complete this step. That concludes the explanation of the side pieces. Next, let's learn how to make the sleeves. Use the right hand long tail cast on method. Work in stocking stitch back and forth. Since every iron's tension is different, the row count provided in the chart is for reference only. You can measure as you knit. Decrease when you reach the corresponding length. The decrease method has been demonstrated before. Refer to the chart for the specific decrease pattern. Finally, bind off on the right side. Complete this step. That concludes the explanation of the sleeves. Next, let's learn how to make the hem. There are two pieces in total. Both use the long tail cast on with the right hand. Knit back and forth using stocking stitch. Decrease according to the pattern at the corresponding row numbers. Finally, bind off on the right side. Refer to the chart to complete it. Set it aside for later use. That concludes the explanation of the hem. After all the fabric pieces are knitted with knitting needles, press them flat with an iron. Confirm that the dimensions fit properly. Next, you need to crochet short stitches along the edges of the corresponding fabric pieces. This will allow them to be sewn together with the crocheted parts later. Here, both the back piece and the left and right front pieces need their edges crocheted. The edges of all these pieces should be crocheted. For the side piece, crochet along the starting chain and the curved side. For the hem, crochet along the bound off edge. The exact number of single crochet stitches is marked on the chart. I'll demonstrate the method using the side piece as an example. Here, I'll demonstrate with a small sample swatch. Place the side piece with the right side facing up. Locate the starting chain on the right side of the curve. You can see that the starting point has a hole like this. Insert your hook into the approximate position on the far right, that is, the hole next to the edge chain. Join the yarn. For the sample swatch, use any random yarn. Here, you can make a knot. Draw up a loop. Adjust it slightly. The joining is complete. You can follow this method for all subsequent joinings. Make one chain as the turning chain for the single crochet. This does not count as one stitch. Work one single crochet in the same position. Weave in the ends together. Pick up these holes and work corresponding single crochets. The exact number of single crochets should refer to the chart. You can use a stitch marker to divide it into several even sections. Evenly pick up the corresponding number of stitches for each section. You might need to pick up stitches from the holes that correspond to the braid-like texture. You also need to pick up stitches between two braids, or there could be situations where you pick up 2 stitches from one hole. As long as the single crochets are evenly distributed, it will work. While crocheting, make sure the fabric piece stays flat and looks nice. The stitch count here in the sample is random. After completing, place a marker on the last stitch to mark it. Then work single crochets along the curvy side accordingly. You can see these kinds of holes between the two edges of the border. Insert into these holes and work single crochets. Similarly, refer to the chart and evenly divide the stitch count for each section. At the corners, you can work 2 additional single crochets in the same position. This will make the curve look natural. Here, the stitch count at the sewing position is smaller. Pay attention to keeping the fabric piece from twisting. After completing, continue working single crochets at the starting chain. Note, mark the first single crochet stitch. Remember which part the marked stitch belongs to. After finishing, check the stitch count. Confirm everything is correct, then fasten off the yarn. Just tuck the yarn tail inside the fabric to hide it. This completes the edging for one side piece. Use the same method to crochet the edging for all other areas. When you encounter a bind-off position, like here, pick up the chain space underneath the bind-off. Alternatively, you can work single crochets into the braid of the bind-off. Remember to mark the position with a stitch marker. Note that the edging for the front and back pieces is worked in one continuous round. After completing, join with a slip stitch at the first stitch, then fasten off the yarn. Just hide the yarn tail on the wrong side. Refer to the chart to complete it. That concludes the explanation of crocheting the edging. Next, we will learn about the collar. It is divided into Motif 1, edging for Motif 1. Motif 2. Edging for Motif 2. Buttons and sewing together these parts. Let's start by learning Motif 1. All of them use the magic ring method to start. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. You will need to switch colors during the process. The first motif is a complete one, while the other motifs of type 1 need to be worked and joined along the side on the last round. This forms a long strip like this. A lot of new stitches are used here. They are all marked on the chart. I won't list them all here. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific crochet technique. Start with a magic ring. After completing the ring, begin the first round. Start with a special DC3 bobble. First, make 3 beginning chains. Then work 2 incomplete double crochets into the ring. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. The first stitch is complete. Continue with the second stitch. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. The second stitch is complete. Finally, yarn over and draw through all remaining loops in once. One special DC3 bobble is now finished. Next, work 4 chains. Then make another DC3 bobble into the ring. Start with 3 incomplete double crochets. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops on the hook in once. The DC3 bobble is now complete. From now on, we'll refer to it as the bobble stitch. Continue by making 2 more bobble stitches. On both sides, use 4 chains as a transition. After that, close the magic ring. Lastly, on the stitch above to the right of the first bobble stitch, work 1 slip stitch. Make sure to tighten the joining slip stitch at the end of the round. Switch colors for the next round. Fasten off the yarn here. Secure with 1 chain. Pull up the loop to enlarge it. Leave a 5 cm tail and cut the yarn. Pull tight to secure. We will consider the side with clearer texture as the right side of the piece. The wrong side has a blurry texture. The first round is now complete. Continue with the second round. Take the corresponding yarn. The sample swatch uses random colors. Join the yarn at the slip stitch position from the previous round. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Work 1 single crochet in the same stitch. You can weave in the tail behind together. Work 1 half double crochet in the left chain space. Work 5 double crochets. And 1 half double crochet. We will consider the part we've already crocheted as a group. Continue and work one more group. On the left bobble stitch. Pay attention to the braid on the top right corner. Work one single crochet. Crochet the corresponding stitch in the chain space. The second group is complete. Continue crocheting the remaining sections. Finally, work one slip stitch in the starting single crochet. Pull tight and fasten off the yarn. The second round is complete. You can trim off any remaining yarn tails. Move on to the third round. On the left side of the previous round's yarn tail, in the middle stitch of 5 double crochets. Join the yarn. Make one chain as your beginning chain. Work one single crochet in the same position. Chain 2. Crochet 3 double crochets on the left single crochet. Chain 3. And 3 double crochets. Continue with 2 chains. Crochet 1 half double crochet in the center of the left double crochet. Chain 2. Work 1 treble crochet on the left single crochet. Yarn over twice. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this 3 times. Treble crochet is complete. Crochet another treble crochet in the same stitch. Yarn over twice. Insert the hook. Pull the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this 3 times. Treble crochet is complete. Continue with another treble crochet. Chain 4. Crochet 3 more treble crochets in the same position. And then 2 double crochets. Continue following the pattern for the rest of the work. Pay attention to the stitch techniques and changes in the number of chains. After completing the last 2 chains, slip stitch into the starting single crochet and fasten off the yarn. The third round is complete. Finally, crochet the fourth round. Join the yarn in the third chain space on the right side of the yarn tail from the previous round. Crochet 3 chains. Crochet 3 double crochets in the same position. Work the corresponding stitches by picking up chain spaces below. Mind the changes in the number of chains at the corners. Complete the stitches in the chain space of the second corner. Crochet 3 double crochets on the third treble crochet from the left side. Continue picking up holes and working the corresponding stitches. After finishing the last 3 chains, on the beginning chain, slip stitch through the top 2 loops of the chain and fasten off the yarn. The fourth round is complete. The first complete motif 1 has also been crocheted. You can see that the motif is in the shape of a trapezoid. We will consider the chains at the corners as the angles. 3 chains form the top corner. 5 chains form the bottom corner. Between the corners are the sides. The top is the short side. The bottom is the long side. The 2 sides are the diagonal edges. Refer to the chart and check the dimensions of motif 1. If there is a significant difference, you need to adjust your tension and crochet again. This ensures it fits properly when sewing it together with the front and back pieces. Next, crochet the second motif 1. The first 3 rounds are crocheted in the same way as the first motif 1. The sample swatch has already been crocheted ahead of time. Now we will crochet the fourth round and connect it to the first motif 1. You can make the connection on either diagonal edge of the previous motif. In this case, the connection is made on the left side for the sample. First, refer to the chart and crochet the long edge at the bottom. Next, you'll reach the bottom right corner position. Crochet 2 chains. Remove the hook. Take out motif 1. Ensure both right sides are facing up. Locate the bottom left corner of it. Draw the loop through. Adjust the tension properly. Then finish crocheting the remaining 3 chains. This connects the 2 corners together. Now move on to crocheting the diagonal edge. Start with 1 treble crochet stitch. Remove the hook. Insert it into the rightmost treble crochet stitch of motif 1's diagonal edge. Specifically, this stitch right here. Draw the loop out. Continue and complete the second treble crochet stitch. This way, you've made a connection at this stitch. The stitches on both sides are matched up. Then continue to refer to the chart and join at the corresponding treble crochet positions. Pay attention. On motif 1, Connect the treble crochet stitch with its corresponding treble crochet stitch. Pull the yarn through on the rightmost stitch here. Continue crocheting and joining as you go. Once the diagonal edge is done, take a look. There are a total of 5 connections made here. For the next diagonal edges, follow the same method to connect. Proceed with the same method. Continue to join the last corner. Start with chain 1. Pull the yarn through from the corresponding corner. Then crochet chain 2. The corner connection is now complete. For connecting the next motifs, connect the upper and lower corners in the same way. Before crocheting the middle chain, pull the yarn through from the corresponding corner to join. Finish with a slip stitch, and fasten off the yarn. That's how you crochet and connect the second motif 1. For the remaining motif 1s, follow the same method as for the second motif 1. Connect them sequentially along the diagonal edge on the left side. This will form a long strip like this. Refer to the previous demonstration for guidance. Follow the chart to complete it. That concludes the explanation of motif 1. Next, we'll learn how to crochet the edging for motif 1. First, crochet in rounds around the edges of motif 1. Then work on the neckline position. The new stitches used are half double crochet decrease and double crochet decrease. Please watch as I demonstrate the exact crocheting method. Start with the first round. Lay motif 1 flat, with the short side facing up. Here, I'll demonstrate using a small sample. There are fewer motifs for simplicity. The main focus is on demonstrating the method. Join the yarn in the top right corner hole of the rightmost motif. Chain 1 is the beginning chain. Work 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Weave in the yarn tail together. On the left side of the beginning chain, insert the hook and work 1 single crochet. Continue picking up stitches, and work single crochets correspondingly downward. Don't skip any puckered stitches on the left side. When you reach the corner position, work 1 single crochet inside. In the same corner hole, and the left corner hole, work 1 half double crochet decrease. First, work 2 incomplete half double crochets. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Pull the yarn through. The first stitch is complete. Continue to yarn over and insert the hook into the left corner hole. Draw through. The second stitch is complete. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops. The half double crochet decrease is now finished. Work one more single crochet in the same hole. For the next adjacent corner holes. Repeat this process and match up accordingly. Continue to work single crochets along the short edge correspondingly. At the next corner, work one corresponding single crochet. Work one half double crochet decrease. First, work two incomplete half double crochets. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops. The half double crochet decrease is now complete. Continue by working one single crochet in the hole. Proceed to crochet along the edges and corners as described. When you reach the top left corner hole of the motif on the far left, work 5 single crochets into it. Continue with corresponding single crochets along the diagonal edge. Work 6 single crochets in the bottom left corner hole. Continue with corresponding single crochets along the long edge. When you reach the adjacent corner position, work 1 single crochet in the right side corner hole. Work 1 half double crochet. Then, work 1 double crochet decrease across 2 holes. Start by working 1 incomplete double crochet in each hole. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops. The double crochet decrease is now complete. In the same hole, work 1 half double crochet and 1 single crochet. Continue crocheting along the long edge and corner positions as described. In the bottom right hole of the rightmost motif, work 6 single crochets. Continue with single crochets along the diagonal edge. Work 3 more single crochets in the join hole. Then, finish with a slip stitch. The first round is complete. Next, refer to the chart. On the central motif, place a marker on the double crochet decrease stitch at the bottom left corner. in the bottom left hole of the leftmost motif. Place a marker on the fourth single crochet. Mark the position and the stitch pattern in between. The number of stitches should match half the stitch count of the front and back neckline of the front and back pieces. Mark the other side symmetrically. Ensure it corresponds to the neckline of the other side's front and back pieces. If the stitch count doesn't match, adjust the number of single crochets according to the actual situation. Move on to the second row. Start with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Work 1 single crochet in the slip stitch position below. Skip 2 stitches. Crochet 5 double crochets into the same stitch. We will consider these 5 double crochets as one fan pattern. Below, skip 2 stitches and alternate crocheting single crochets and fan patterns. Continue crocheting until you reach the corner position on the other side. When you reach the corresponding position, skip 1 stitch. Crochet a fan pattern in the first single crochet that was worked into the chain space. If the skipped position does not match the chart, you can slightly adjust the interval. After completing, work 1 single crochet into the left stitch. Chain 8. Join with a slip stitch into the left stitch. Gently tighten. Cut the yarn. Weave in the yarn tail on the wrong side. You can hide a few more stitches if needed. This will create a buttonhole. The edging for motif 1 is now complete.